Assalamu alaikum and welcome to my channel Thor of Spein. Through this channel, we discuss academic and intellectual topics. This topic is about Virginia Woolf. She is a modernist. She belongs to the heroic age of modern novel. The heroic age was from 1912 to 1930, and during this period, the great novelists like E.M. Forster, James Joyce, Joseph Conrad, D.H. Lawrence, and Virginia Woolf, they actually contributed to the novels, to the modern novels, and they are remembered for their contribution and for their innovative ideas. This discussion is about Virginia Woolf. So some of the points I would like to share with you are: Virginia Woolf is a 20th century novelist, essayist, and publisher. Her experiments with the stream of consciousness narration, then she belonged to an intellectual family and there was always books around her, and she was quite used to or fond of such books and study. Then another feature of her life is the Bloomsbury Group. Bloomsbury Group are the community of intellectuals and artists. The literary contribution of Virginia Woolf are 9 novels, 400 essays, and 30 volumes of diary. This is her intellectual contribution or literary contribution. Then a few words about the Bloomsbury Group. The members of Bloomsbury Group, they included novelists like E.M. Forster, economist John Maynard Keynes, Leonard Woolf, her husband, Bertrand Russell, and Lytton Strachey. They are some of the prominent members of the Bloomsbury Group. Bloomsbury is an area in London, and the gathering of the intellectuals at the home of Virginia Woolf. The members of the group, they remain active from 1907 up to 1937. Their focus remained on honesty of thought, and the feeling, art, literature, friendship, free and open discussion, and of course, feminism. As a modernist, Virginia Woolf, her modern style changed with each novel and each contribution. She stands alongside with other modern writers. Her struggle to free herself from the novelistic conventions. And the novelistic convention means the 19th century novels, that style, and particularly the Victorian period. So she wanted to get rid of the frame of the orthodox Victorian novelists, new style of narrative, narration, and a new style of stream of consciousness. That is in fact her contribution and her specialty. In a rooms of one's own and 3 guineas, Woolf makes a fascinating intervention into debates over women's rights, using the technique of the novelist to reinforce her viewpoint and to put that viewpoint into her literary contribution. Now, stream of consciousness. What is stream of consciousness? This is in fact a style that portrays the inner workings of a character's mind, a random flow of ideas, memories, associations, images, emotions. All these factors, they arise spontaneously in mind of the characters and in mind of the individuals. The action of the characters and day-to-day relationship, unconsciousness mind, the secret storehouse of memory, they are other factors which contribute to the stream of consciousness. The flow of the contents of a character's mind is called an interior monologue. Stream of consciousness and interior monologue, almost they go together and they are quite relevant with each other. A majority of the works of Virginia Woolf, the focus of her novels is the stories of figures of writers and artists. So she represented majority of the artists in fictitious forms in her short stories, in her essays and her novels. Her struggle was towards a deeper psychological truth, artistic or stylistic experimentation, exploration of human consciousness, plot and storyline abundant, unity and coherence are provided by poetic elements like imagery and symbolism. So let's take interior monologue. What is interior monologue? When a character speaks to one or more listeners whose response is not known, now this is actually interior monologue. The reaction of the listener is inferred by the reader. From the speaker's words, the reader learns about the setting, the situation, the identity of the characters, and the personality of the speaker. Character is created by the poet or the writer, and the literary work is written as though that character, not the actual writer, not the poet or the novelist, is speaking directly to the reader. In fact, we can say that the narrator is speaking, but the narrator should not be taken as the writer or the poet. The narrator is speaking to the reader directly. As far as her novels are concerned, so in 1915, she published Voyage Out, her first novel, then Night and Day, that was in 1919. In 1922, Jacob's Room, 1925, Mrs. Delavey, 1927, To the Lighthouse, and in 1928, then she published Orlando. In 1929, A Room of One's Own, 1931, The Waves, and the last work, which was published in 1941, that was Between the Acts. Now, a brief summary of her novels. So, The Voyage Out is about conventional narrative, concentrates on the analysis of the characters rather than on plot and incident. The same is true about Night and Day. In Jacob's Room, a new technique is devised using serious disconnected tensions revealed by internal monologue to illuminate hero's personality or the personality of the protagonist. The same style is adopted in Mrs. Delavey and To the Lighthouse. It is unfortunate that a great name in the English novel, she committed a suicide. She clearly expressed her reasons for committing suicide in her last letter to her husband, Leonard Woolf. And if we quote the actual words from the letter, I feel certain that I am going mad again. I feel we means she and her husband. I feel we can't go through another of those terrible times or that madness. I began to hear voices and cannot concentrate any further. The last words of her letter are, "Will you destroy all my papers?" However, her husband, Leonard Woolf, he was a sensible person. He disregarded her instructions about the destruction of her letters or papers or works, and he published all her works, which is now available to us. and we are getting the fruitful ideas and messages from her novels. So this was a brief introduction or a brief discussion about Virginia Woolf. As a conclusion, we can say that Virginia Woolf is considered a master of the stream of consciousness technique. Her novel exemplify experiments with time and narrative, and according to T.S. Eliot, with the death of Virginia Woolf, a whole pattern of culture is broken. This was about Virginia Woolf as a modernist. Thank you very much for your kind attention. We will keep continue this discussion. Already discussed the works of D.H. Lawrence. This discussion was about Virginia Woolf. Thank you very much once again.